Small but mighty. This crowd is unruly. Okay, for those of you who are observant and notice that there's an empty place at the speaker's table, she's coming. She's just running a little late. We heard from her. So by the time it gets to her turn, she'll be here. So not to worry. Well, hello, Tiger Bay. Yeah. It's great to see you on this hot day. I have a few little announcements to make, and then we'll get started. First of all, I'm really grateful to see you all coming out in the midsummer doldrum period of living in Bradenton. I know a lot of people are on vacation, a lot of people are gone, but we have such a good program, and I'm really excited that you're all here to share it. I wanted to remind you that you can purchase a half-priced membership into Tiger Bay because we're halfway through the year. So if you have not joined and you want to join for the rest of the year, so you have the privilege of asking questions at the meetings, you can join for half price now. And then we'll start again in January. So and the half price membership is $50 for one person. Yeah, and then $150 for corporate. So also, I've been promising you this for a year, and I'm still promising it, but it's really close. We're going to have a brand new website by the next time we meet. And everybody bring your electronic devices. We're going to look at it because it's so exciting. It's something we have so badly needed. It's going to be dynamic, exciting, useful, interesting. It'll be a great place for you to show your friends about Tiger Bay. You'll find a lot of information there, and it's going to be really, really, really cool. And I am particularly grateful to one of our board members, Ben Bacher, who is kind of the spearhead for this effort. And we should all say thank you, Ben, because he's a volunteer. You got to remember we're all volunteers, and I know you're clapping for something you haven't seen yet, but I promise you, you will not be sorry that you clapped. So that's going to be exciting and something to celebrate. It's we've been working on it for a long time. The other announcement is next meeting, we're going to have a little debate about Long Bar Point. So I'm sure none of you have an opinion about that. And so bring your friends and developers and environmentalists and residents, and we're going to have a really good discussion of all the issues surrounding Long Bar Point. And this was a program that we kind of inserted into our plan because it was clearly something, there was a large demand for an open forum on that at Tiger Bay. And in October, given that it's almost Halloween and it's a good time to talk about costumes and fantasy and all of that, we're going to have a great program about the Feld Corporation with Casey Rogers, who is running the new, if those of you who don't know, that big building across the river is now filled with excitement, and it's the headquarters, the international headquarters of the Feld Corporation, which runs Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, Disney on Ice, monster trucks, bunch of really wonderful, exciting family events all around the world, and they're going to be headquartered here. You might even hear the elephants trumpet because there will be elephants on site, although you can't see them. And Casey's going to come and share both their Feld's vision for the transformational effect of that corporation moving here on what's possible for this region, and also some fun stories about what they do. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and want to see you at the next meetings. So that being said, would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okie dokie. Now, one of the big issues that we face as a community and as a region is employment, unemployment, and getting people back to the workforce and getting the workforce back to speed. So today's program is going to address those issues, and I'm sure you have a lot of questions. We have a great panel, and as you know, I don't do long introductions. If people want to tell you a lot about themselves, they'll do that while they're talking in their 10 minutes. But I want to tell you I'm very thrilled that we have the panelists that we do, including the one that is about to arrive soon, so don't worry about that. But we have Dr. Mary Cantrell, who is the Executive Director of Manatee Technical Institute. And if you have not gone into Manatee Technical Institute on State Road 70, the new building, you should go. It's worth it. It is something that this county should be exceptionally proud of. It's just an amazing facility. And it's a great institution and always has been, but now it's got a physical plant that reflects its greatness. We have Alan Anderson, who is the Executive Vice President of the Home Builders Association in Manatee and Sarasota. And then we have Natalie DeWolf, who is the Executive Director of Career Edge. And Career Edge is a very innovative program, which she'll tell you about. So we're going to start with Alan, and Mary's next, and hopefully by then Natalie's here and we proceed. So question and answers at the end. Thank you. Alan?
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, and it's a great day to be in Manatee County, isn't it? It is. I'd like to thank Tiger Bay Club for inviting me and my fellow panelists for this important issue that we have in our community today. For us in the construction industry, qualified labor shortage in many respects is somewhat of a good problem in comparison to what we've been through in the last few years when we've had a lot of qualified workers and really no jobs. So an issue, but somewhat of a good issue that we'll work on. Today, within the construction industry, we find that ever-increasing shortage of skilled labor, especially in the trades, masonry, framing, drywall, and along with some of the other electrical, plumbing, and HVAC is starting to impact our schedules today. This shortage is really due to, in part, to an increase in construction activity in our community, which will be up over 20% over previous years in the recent past of new construction. The other part of the shortage is really due to the aging workforce. According to the National Association of Home Builders, the average age is 56 years old, and that number has been hovering in that 50-year-old plus range for quite some time. The short-term concern is to find skilled laborers today to meet our production schedules, and this is somewhat driven by the current demand of new housing. We're ahead of last year, as I mentioned, and this is due to some of the availability of general real estate, which in Manatee County we are today at about 1.9 months of available housing that the realtors have access to. That's a pretty low number when a 6-month inventory is about a normal market. And so this is really bringing the realtors are bringing their clients to our builders' new models and as an option, because there isn't much for them to show their clients. So it's creating even more of a demand on our ability to build homes and keep up with the demand. So recently we put together a pilot program to work with the Suncoast workforce to have our subcontractor base that works for our builders, to have them look at a way where they could grow their business, add capacity, so that they could do more work for the builders that they're working for, and allow them to try and keep their schedules for their customers on track. And within Manatee and Sarasota, with the Suncoast workforce, they have about 1,100 folks in their database that have either identified themselves in one way or another as being involved in construction over the years. So they have some knowledge, they have some skills, and with that, we have a resource there that we want our subcontractor base to focus on and allow them to be sent qualified people to their job or to their office to be interviewed, and allow them to see if they'll work out and expand their business. And there's many incentives, a lot of tax incentives. If you were to hire a veteran, that is, it's $9,600 just for one veteran, that the company could receive. When we had this meeting, I told a couple of our builders that I made a mistake and not have their accountant show up, because they would have jumped all over this program. Someone that's on food stamps is another $2,400. There are a lot of incentives where someone, a business could look at that and say it makes sense to look at these at this database of employees, available employees to put on their payroll. And so we encourage them to do that, and I think that that'll eventually grow more. We're going to roll it out to the rest of our builders in our membership, and allow them to do that. And so that's somewhat of the short-term solution. When the housing market kind of went in the tank, we lost a lot of people, a lot of builders, a lot of subcontractors. They moved away. They are not coming back. They found jobs where they are. It's just not feasible. So this really short-term solution is what we have to look at, and it is hopefully something that the community can at least look at as a positive way to resolve this. I think more importantly, though, is the long-term solution to the problem, and that is it should be a major focus of the business community for our future as well. And the answer is that the short-term shortage that's anticipated, the solution's right here in our school district. It's our students in our classrooms today. They will be the ones to backfill the aging worker issue, at least for us. But I think most other industries, have some of the same problems. I think many of us at some point in time plan to retire. I know I do. It's hopefully right around the corner. Sadly, I find myself being the oldest guy in the room sometimes, and I hate that when that happens. But well, that's true. But with that said, I want to thank Rusty for taking that honor today, and it wouldn't be me. So, but somebody, really, someone will have to do that job someday, and not only that, someone will have to do the job for the new jobs that are created for the new business, the new products that are going to come about, that our businesses are creating. And so having a community awareness of this, having the business leaders involved in doing a study, providing the information to our school district about what future jobs, what training will those jobs need, and give the school districts the opportunity to gear up for that and start creating programs so that we can really train those those students, backfill that, and in the long term is keep those students here in our community, rather than train them and send them away. They go to Charlotte or Atlanta or points north and west. It's just, I think we have an exodus of that. I've seen that for too many years. I think there should be a new focus on career and technical education within our district. It's not been a real major focus, and it's important that we start looking at that. When you look at the other side of where education is pointing students these days, 25% of high school graduates that enter college graduate. That's it. So we're underserving our student population, 75% of that, by not finding them career path, other education that can help them get focused on what they're going to do when they get out of high school, and other training that they can obtain. So we need to get our Department of Ed more focused on that. Senator Gates passed a bill, Senate Bill 1076, recently in the last session. There will be a lot more focus on career and technical education, and I want to make sure that we look at that in our school districts, but also with our business leaders to be involved. Not only that, I'm not going to cast any dispersions. Maybe they're all busy today, but I would have loved to seen our county commissioners here. They need to be involved. This is a community concern, and we need to work together to resolve this. So we as a organization and as a community should be insisting on the training for our next workers, our next jobs, and look at our school district to help provide that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Cantrell. I'm the director of Manatee Technical Institute. I'd like for you to know a little bit about the school. Some of you I have seen it on the campus, and it would be my pleasure if you would come to the school sometime. The main campus is there, 6305 State Road 70 East, and just come by anytime and say, "Where is that Cantrell lady? She said she'd take me around and show me this place." And I will drag your rear end all through that campus and show you every bit of it, and you'll be so glad to get away because it's 210,000 square feet under one roof. And if you really want to see it beautiful, drive by at night and just pull over and look at it, because it is truly a gorgeous, gorgeous place. And this is our year of wonders. We've been looking forward and planning the year 2013 for several years. Our school board chairman used to teach Latin, and tell him my magic phrase for this year. This is our year of wonders, our year of miracles. Thank you very much. And matter of fact, I wanted to use that Latin phrase in our ads this year, starting, because this is going to be such a marvelous year for us. And so I went to our marketing lady and I said, "Mara, I want to use this wonderful phrase in Latin to, and I actually said it. I mispronounced one of the words, and she thought I was insulting her. So I said, well, I always get someone else to pronounce it for me because I'm from Texas and I don't really speak the King's English, you may have noticed. So anyway, I said I want to use this wonderful Latin phrase to describe MTI. It's going to be our year of miracles, our year of wonders. And Mara looked at me and she said, well, honey, this is a tech center, if you're lucky. Some people call it a trade school. But you know what? You're not Ivy League, so get off that high horse. So I've told that story to everybody, and the chef felt so sorry for me that's what he named our little cafeteria where the staff eats. Actually, we serve everyone, the students, everyone eats there. And this is our year of miracles. In the beginning of the year, on the 7th of January 2013, we moved into that beautiful new facility. And I don't want you to think it took a long time to plan it, but honey, we've been doing drawings on that since the year 2000. So it's been a long time coming. Also, in this year, we hope to that when we went to compete in HOSA, which is health occupations, that we would be number one in the nation for the 4th year in a row, and we were. So that was really good. And we also, I wanted this to, wait a minute, I got one more topper there. We also compete in Skills USA. And with luck, this would be our 10th year to be the national champion. Now, that's good. And we made that one. But I can't just, that's just half the story. When we compete in Skills USA, there are about 6,000 other students there, or 6,000 students there competing in 98 different contests, all career education, career technical education. And usually the University of Utah Valley comes in second. In 2004, the first year that we were the number one in the nation, MTI students won 17 medals. The University of Utah Valley won 16. So the next school year, I drove my entire staff crazy because they have a bird's eye. They're trying to shoot us down because they were beat by a tech center, and there they are, the university. So we have to be much, much better. Every year, better, better, better. Well, as we progressed, they got up to 19 medals, and that was the year that we won 90 medals. When you beat second place by 70 medals, honey, that's not beating them. That's romping, stomping, hog tying, branding them. And I'm from Texas, and that's the way I like to play the game. So that's my school, and that's why I'm so dadgum proud of it. And that's why I would love to show you around. But the reason I'm really here today is about this gap between the skills that people need and the skills that are available. And what shocks me is that people are surprised. What in the heck did you expect would happen when everything in your curriculum from K-12 is nothing but to prepare you for the next year of school? If you're in the first grade, well, you have to learn this to go to the second. If you're in the third, you've got to pass this test to go to the fourth. If you're in the eighth, oh, and now we're going to add end-of-course testing. You're going to have to pass that. When you get to high school, it's all about going to college. Go to college. You must go to college. You heard Alan tell you, 75% of the students do not make it through college. I'll give you a better statistic, and I will use the state of Florida data and Manatee County. When our students graduate from high school, they've been spent 12 years in school to prepare them to go to college. And when they get to college, they sign them for English, math, science, and social studies. Honey, if you didn't like that in high school, you're not going to like it at all in college. Because what you had visions of was toga party and beer. And here they're wanting you to take English, math, science, and social studies, and you didn't like it. So guess what? 58% of our students drop out before the end of the first semester. 58%. Now, everything is defined success in life. You will be a failure if you drop out. Now, usually we're talking about when they drop out of high school. Of course, in my family, we always prayed that they'd make it through middle school, too. But anyway, so when they drop out of college and everything's been defined as success as graduating, going to college, they don't feel successful. They come back home, and even if maybe they went to state college so they didn't leave home, but so they're looking for a job. And they don't have a skill, but they get a job. And at one time, you could drive down 41 and you would see signs at, Burger King, at Wendy's, and they'd be paying $8, $9 an hour because everyone was working. If you could breathe and walk and at the same time, I could get you a job. It was that desperate for workers, and everything was booming. Well, when the crash hit, those people lost their jobs. And when you lose your job, when you're the first one fired, the last one hired, it's hard on you. When we look at what happens to Manatee students when they graduate from high school, I've already told you, 58% drop out that first semester. But let's look longitudinally. 10 years after they've graduated from high school, what happens to those graduates? 73% of those graduates, the highest credential they have is a high school diploma. They don't have a certificate from MTI. They don't have a certificate from State College. Nothing. All they have is just that high school diploma. And for 10 years, they've been the last one hired and the first one hired, and they still don't have a skill. And their jobs were plentiful at one point. It wasn't a really big deal. So what happens? When they're 28, they're ready to settle down. They're tired of sharing an apartment with 4 other guys or girls. They're tired of living at home. They want their own place, and they come to MTI. The average age bracket of students at MTI is 28 to 32. And when they come, they want a career in a year. They're in a hurry, they're intensive, they want to learn. I read somewhere there are a little bit over 7,000 students from the in 9th, 10th, and 11th, 12th grades in Manatee County, a little over 7,000. Manatee Tech, actually it's another school year earlier, we served 6,500 different students. So we're about 500 and some short of what the 6 high schools are doing. We're doing it at one tech center. And of those students that we served, if you started a career tech program, our accreditation requires us to follow up every student that starts the program. What happens to them? And of those that start the program, 91% leave with a marketable skill. Now I have to follow up those that left with a marketable skill, and I have to prove what happened to them for my accreditation. 91% of those went to work. So if they have a skill, they can get a job. They can keep a job. They will come back to our school within 2 years. They've been promoted, and they're there to hire more people just like them. And they usually tell me, now I know there's not any as good as and wonderful as what I was when I was here, because that's what we tell them when they're there. But of course, the next group, I always tell them, you're my favorite group. I have 5 children. All of them think that they're my favorite. But I work at that too. The reason we have a shortage in skill gap, if your son or daughter came home and they were a senior in high school and they said, you know, I've been thinking, I think I would really like to fix cars. That's what I really want to do. I want to fix cars. And I'll tell you a little bit about fixing a car. I can remember when you could open the hood of a car and kind of recognize different parts. I knew if I pulled this little thing that had a little like this, I could find out if I was out of oil. I knew how to start my car when the carburetor was acting up. And I knew when my starter, if I got in there with a flat-edged screwdriver, I could do like that and I could make my car start. I can open the engine right now and look at my engine. I have no clue what anything is. It looks like it's all sealed in a tomb or something. In your radio in your car, there are more computers and more computer power in the radio of your car than was on the Apollo mission that went to the moon. So that tech that fixed your car, they've got to be a rocket scientist. That's my belief. But if you don't value a rocket scientist, if you don't value a plumber, if you don't value the person that builds your house, fixes the brakes on your car, your brakes fail and you die, I think you would value it if you had someone that knew what they were doing. That paramedic that has to paralyze you in order to put a tube down your throat so they can breathe for you if you've had a traumatic injury. I would want that person to have value to you because they have value to me. But we, as a society, what we have valued is go to college. And if your child comes home, my tech center is wonderful for someone else's kid. And what makes a difference in why a student comes to us right out of high school, statewide, 1% of high school graduates enter a tech center. 1% enter a tech center. 1. We get 3%. So I think I'm doing dang good. Not very many of them, but I do get 3%. This started when Harry Truman was down in Key West. He had that was the little White House, I guess they called it. And he said, you know what, we just won World War II. We are the greatest nation that's ever been, ever will be. And what we're going to do is we're going to farm out all those blue-collar jobs. We're going to be a country of white-collar jobs. Everyone's going to go to college. They increased the college student stations by over 800%. And student station means places where you can take in more students. Increased the college student stations by over 800%. Of the job market, what you need and technically, about 20% of the jobs require a bachelor's degree or higher, 20%. And about 20% of the jobs, really, you need no skill at all. But there's about a 60% there that you need on a sliding scale skills. And it's those skills that we have downplayed. after Harry Truman set this defined success as going to college and increasing the student stations, and all of a sudden, manual schools, that's me, I'm supposed to touch, they fell by the wayside. We need to stop falling by the wayside. We have value. And if you'll value your plumber, if you'll value that paramedic, if you'll value that police officer's there to help you, as long as they're not writing me a ticket. Those are just a pain in the rear. But the ones that basically really are there to help. So they're firefighters. All of these, that's training that we do. And if you would come see the students that we have, if we can give skilled workers value, and where they will come to the MTI, they're not coming because they're first going to college and wasting 10 years of their life. I think if I changed my name to Manatee Technical College, I would have more students too, because then the parents could send them to college. Thank you very much.
Okay, Natalie has arrived, and so we're going to hear from Natalie DeWolf from Career Edge. I hope you took the time to click that link on our invitation so you know about it. It's a very exciting program. So, Natalie, it is yours.
Hello, I'm Natalie DeWolf of Career Edge, and I'll also tell you a little bit about Career Edge. Career Edge was started with the foresight of some people actually sitting here today, the Sherrod Halliburton and Tim Polk, and it has been funded, and the vision was funded by people within the CCRA and the DDA, and they came together, and the 14th Street CRA, and they came together with some private organizations, some private funders, the Gulf Coast Community Foundation and the Knight Foundation, and they looked at our workforce solutions, and they thought, you know, we have government solutions, but we really need to start looking at bringing private investment into this and creating a workforce galvanizing entity, which is what we call ourselves. And we partner with Suncoast, and we have a number of initiatives with them. But the big thing that we started to do is to take this approach, a very employer-led approach to workforce development. You know, prior to that, many trainings, and in fact, even today, people do a training or they go to college, whatever they do, they're not thinking about the job at the other end. They just do the training and then they look for a job. And they think that's logical. Whereas what we think is actually it's more logical to see what the jobs are, what do the employers need, and to train for that. And this same issue comes in workforce development and is the reason for the skills gap. And Mary took a lot of what I was going to say, so I'm having to ad-lib a lot now about Harry Truman, etc. That basically there's been this enormous push to go to college, and everyone thinks, you know, my kids have got to go to college, my kids have got to graduate. And I have to say, before I came here, I was one of those people. I thought, you know, if I don't get my kids to college, I've failed them. I've completely failed them. And actually, I may be failing them if I push them to college, because I ignore their aptitude, I ignore their passion, and all I'm doing is, have you done your homework? Is this? You've got your APs. Have you done this? You know, are you going to make it to Ivy League? And I'm really doing them a disservice, because studies that I've seen in my role here actually show how many graduates come out and are actually working in jobs well below their education level. Because we've just got an oversupply. We've got an oversupply of college jobs. And every day, and you probably get this, you get pop-ups on your computer, get a grant, go to college. Well, the 4-year degree doesn't have the exciting return on investment that it did 10 years ago. You can scrimp, save, pay anything from $10,000 to $60,000, come out saddled in debt, and people are going, hang on a minute, was I scammed? And to some extent, they really were. And so we have all these people with great degrees going into retail jobs. We don't have people with the skills because, wow, skills, a trade. You know, I don't want to do that. I want to be a CEO. I want to be in marketing. That's a good one. Everyone goes into marketing because it's a catch-all. But, you know, it's, and that this is another interesting thing about college. There's not a lot in sales. Even, you know, entrepreneurial programs. They don't often have a sales component. Harvard MBA doesn't have a sales component. Well, what is the thing that drives companies? It's their sales force, it's growth. So it's very interesting that we're not educating, and as a society, as a culture, what Mary said, we're not going in the direction we need. So what we're left with now is a lot of very vital, very valuable companies that just cannot find the workers they need. And in analyzing this, one of the things Career Edge looked at and did is said, okay, well, we need information. If we're saying we need to train to a certain group, we need to understand what skills that group needs. So a year ago, we did a skills gap study, and we identified some interesting results. Again, something that I wasn't aware of before the skills gap study. I never realized that manufacturing was coming back in the US. Everyone talked about, oh, it's going to China. Everything's going to China. Well, let me tell you what happened. People went to China. They found out that stainless steel from China stains, i.e., they're all cutting their costs, and so they're putting inferior product in because their middle class is growing, so their labor costs are growing. So where are they cutting? In the product materials. So increasingly, companies that value quality are going to US-based manufacturers. Healthcare is a big one, engineering parts. So what we are growing here in the US is a very high-tech manufacturing sector, a very exciting manufacturing sector, but with a huge skills gap. And when Career Edge brought together a panel of employers, and actually the whole study took 100 employers in the area, and it was a manufacturing-related study because we are sector-specific. What they found was that there were some companies, and I remember sitting there being blown away by this, who said we could grow our company by 30% if all we had to do was get the skilled labor force. We have the demand, we've got the sales, we just don't have the people to produce it. And so what we did is we took those people and got them together and created advisory groups, and we realized that even though there are specific needs to specific machinery, there were some core skills that they didn't have. And a very interesting thing was that, and I can compliment MTI here, was that Mary was the only person to have a precision machining course, and it was here in Manatee. There was nothing down in Sarasota. In fact, we had to help that one along. And yet precision machining was a really, really in-demand skill and continues to be. And we have companies that Career Edge were dealing with then a year ago, which had 40 employees, now at 75 and moving up to 100 and past. I mean, it is a strong sector, and it's a sector that needs those skills that people are saying, oh, I'm going to go to college, I'm not going to go to technical school. Well, let me tell you, I'm looking at my sons, and I'm thinking technical school. And frankly, I wish you did the British system here, which is to give them the gap year. Because if they went out and they actually started to get a job, or if they get a skill in that gap year, that would set them up. We wouldn't see what we're seeing now, which I'm hearing is almost 50% unemployment in the youth segment, which is, 50% of unemployed are coming out of our youth segment, which is very scary. And this is a product of them going to college, doing, often it's the degrees that don't lead into a specific career, like a liberal arts degree, a broad degree, and then they come out and nobody wants to hire them. And as part of our program, we're going to, our employer-led program, we're making constant contact with employers. And for our Bridges program, which is more of an entry-level program, we have to work outside our segment, manufacturing and healthcare. So we've been going to some of the retail people in Manatee County. Lowe's told us that they have a very high percentage of four-year college graduates working with them. I don't know if that surprises anyone. It really surprised me. They said, they've come out of college, they haven't found anything, they've gone, they're working with us. Well, what we're trying to do is to give them information, and say, hey, you've got MTI up the road. You've got SCF. You've got colleges that will give you that vocational training that in 1 year you can be making money. You can either spend 1 year on the couch, you can spend 1 year making minimum wage and then spend a year on the couch, or you can go to a technical college and you can get a skill. And I think part of what we're also trying to do, which is really important, is create an awareness campaign. Because people have images of these jobs and these skills, and they think, you know, oh, it's dirty, oh, it's not me, oh, it's low paid, oh, it's a flat organization. Well, we just did an analysis with our manufacturers, and just in precision machining alone, after that 10-month course, which can cost you $4,000 to $5,000, which many people can qualify for a Pell Grant for, they can go to a manufacturer, start on about $20,000 to $25,000 a year. Within 2 years, they're on about $40,000 to $45,000. After 4 years, they're looking at $80,000. And then if they want to start their own companies, well, sky's the limit. And that message isn't getting out at all. And so now with some of the work we're doing with SAMA, we are trying to go to the high schools and tell them about this. We're creating a video right now so that they can see what this high-tech manufacturing looks like. And I actually, at one of the Sarasota Chamber conferences, I pitched ABC News, the affiliate was here, and I said, guys, you know, you put on so much trash reality TV. Why don't you have, I've got an idea for a reality show. What about, you know, the American dream? And the American dream would be all these people who had careers with vocational skills, what they were doing, and then the entrepreneurs who took that to the next level and started these companies. And that, I think, would go a long way to helping the skills gap shortage. But at the heart of this, and everything I'm saying, is a lack of information. We are essentially a free market economy, and the things that stop a free market working are lack of information. In China, where they have a planned economy, they can see exactly what they're going to need, and they can plan their education towards that because they have a good handle on it. And in fact, in China, I'm told you can get a degree in lingerie making. That is how specific they are in China. So in our system, what we need to do is increase information so that people are not suddenly thinking, oh, I want to become an architect, and suddenly we have an oversupply of architects. People don't want to do manufacturing, and we have this skills gap. The key is to get information to the workforce developers, to the educators, and to parents and to job seekers, but a lot to parents. That's why our SAMA work is targeting 8th graders and 11th graders. We're going in and we're trying to make them understand very early on. But the information is really important, and information on many levels. And I've started to look into this, and I've started to look at who's providing what. And we do have these skills gap surveys like we did, and then the government does some. And it's a really good indicator. But it would be great to get more real-time, more robust data from the jobs that are out there. There's one company that does something a little bit like this called EMSI. It's an economic modeling firm. And you can actually get quite a handle on it. And I thought, well, why aren't more people using this? Why isn't the Workforce Board using this? Well, when I called up, I found out they're actually looking into it too. So I thought, oh, good. And I also discovered that MTI were a subscriber to this, but that they are no longer. And then I found out the reason why. When I actually looked at the data and checked it against the data that we know we have, which is how many jobs in welding and precision machining, they had it way off. So I assume you bought it, saw the data was way off, and said, we're not subscribing. But the sad thing is that's the best data we currently have. So we are looking at, you know, how to gather information more effectively, working together with, this is very early stages, so we don't know how successful we're going to be, but we're looking upon building that kind of modeling data together with Suncoast Workforce, with Monster.com, with a lot of the other job sites so that we can, and with the employers, so that we can get an aggregate picture of what are the needs and what will the needs be we can't really go beyond a year, but then the economic modelers come in and they can forecast, but at least they're forecasting based on real data and not based on no data. Because, you know, coming into this, what I looked at, I'm like, wow, we've got to close the skills gap. First of all, we've got to understand where the skills gap is. And when I look at what's going on today, it's like trying to shoot a duck with a blindfold on. So anyone who's actually hitting that duck is doing really, really well. And so I think what we're doing is chipping away. We're trying to get more data. We're doing more skills gap analysis. Mary is meeting with employers. I've been on some meetings with her. We are getting employers together with, dare I say, SCTI down in Sarasota. But the key is just to basically bridge that gap between what are the jobs and what are the education platforms to address those skills gaps. So I think we're on our way. That's the good news. You know, we do have a ways to go, but the big message I'd ask you to go home, because we're now going to try and impact you at the grassroots level, is tell everybody you know that vocational skill is not a bad word, that it's actually where it's at, and try to help break down those cultural barriers that mean we keep sending our kids to college and saddling them with debt. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's time for questions and answers, and we have some time left. So step up to the microphone. You have to be a member of Tiger Bay to ask a question. And here comes Rosalie. Please state for whom your question is being asked so that the speakers will know who to respond.
I'm Rosalie Schaefer, and I'm a member, and this is for all of them. There have been tremendous changes throughout the entire workforce in computerization, everything from robotics, nanotechnology, 3D printing. I was wondering how you all are keeping up with all this and making sure your graduates get these skills.
The way we do it at MTI, thank goodness we have a brand new building, and in every classroom we have a minimum of 6 computers, and you're right, everything affects everything. And we have the 3D printers, and we use a lot of simulation. We have the human patient simulators, and our human patient simulators, they have a pulse just like we would have a pulse. State College has an even better setup than what we have, but we can use those human patient simulators in lieu of sometimes even taking them into labs. When we built our new building, we invested heavily in getting the latest state-of-the-art, and we're also working together in a collaborative effort with the EDC and with Suncoast and with Career Edge to get the welding simulators. So, and it's the simulators that will allow us to have more students practice the skill without using the materials. And the computers have changed everything. Every classroom has to have a minimum of 6 computers, and then the heavy technology will have 1 computer per student. Automotive has to have 1 computer per student because we have to teach them physics.
Wow. Did you want to say anything about that?
I think I'm on my 3rd career, and when I came back from Vietnam and went to a tech school, fixing computers, you had to open the door and walk inside, and then you were working on the computer. So now with my construction background, I think I can only fix the door getting in or out. The construction industry is probably the lowest tech industry out there, although most of our builders now require our subcontractors, any of those folks, they have to be able to use a computer. No longer are we taking faxes, and that's done. You know, and some of them insist on having to fax their paperwork in or whatever, but it's all online. They have to have these computer skills. They have to, and more mobilization is coming on, and you can actually do your permit for your project or for your home online, but you have to have some level of computer skills. And so learning that either in high school or in some other organization. In our construction tech program at MTI, there's in the classroom, there's all computers in every one of those classrooms for construction. So they do learn that kind of skill as well.
Well, you're absolutely right that things are changing all the time, and that's the point I was making, is we can't just make a determination, expect it to be the same 5 years later. So our approach, being employer-led, is that as sectors that we go into, we set up employer-educator partnerships. Unfortunately, we're only just doing that in the manufacturing sector because we've just gone into that. We did it in healthcare, and it's a very good way for employers to feed back and say, this has changed, this is the technology, this is the billing technology, this is what we need, and the information gets instantly there. So in the absence of doing it on an online platform, which I'd love to do, we take the old-fashioned approach by setting up bi-monthly meetings between employers and educators and keeping up that way.
That's great. Okay, Ben?
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Bacher, and I'm a Tiger Bay member. I guess this is a question for all of you. Looking ahead, say 10 years, in this kind of changing economic landscape of how we do things, A, do you see maybe the new norm becoming high school graduates heading directly into a singular vocational educational direction, whether it be tech schools or anything similar to that? And secondly, do you think, or do you feel that standard four-year colleges will be adjusting how they do things to start tailoring towards individual careers so that they're not graduating 4 years later with just a diploma and a whole lot of student debt?
I would really love if every high school student, when they graduated, that they had already qualified with the entrance exam for state college, and they had the reading and math scores, and also they had a career. They had a nationally recognized certification from a particular program or a particular skill. The way I think, though, instead of saying, okay, you're going to be this or you're going to be that, and trying to say, okay, we have lots of jobs that need this. When students come in, when you're talking about something you're going to be doing, half your waking hours, from Monday through Friday, you're doing that job. And if you love your job, you don't have to work for a living because you're doing what you love to do. So when students come in, or prospective students, I ask the counselors to do, sit down and talk to them. Don't suggest just because we have vacancies in this program or we know this is a really good program. No. Ask them first, what's something you would be willing to do for 1 week? Other people get paid, but you're going to do it as a volunteer. Tell me something you enjoy doing that much, that you would volunteer to do it for 1 week. Other people are getting paid. And if I can find a career that matches that you have a passion for something in that, you're not going to have to work for a living. And you can take a lot of skills and you can match your passion to that. And I'm looking for people that have a passion for doing something. If all the person's doing is showing up for work from 8 to 5, they're not really a value-added employee. But if when they come in there, they're looking for ways to make, how can we do this more productively? How can we do it better? How can I do a better product? How can I be a better employee today? And how can I help others to be a better employee? You've got an employee that you're going to need to promote, and that's the kind of graduate we want.
Just echo a little bit here of what Mary said is, today our education in K through 12, especially in high school, you are, if any of your electives, they basically have to have some type of certification program attached to that if you're in one of the career academies. And so, for example, our students at Palmetto High School, which has a very large construction technology program, They basically have about 250 students that are in that program. Many of them are in our Future Builders of America program, but they have completers, and they're really learning the core technology, construction technology, the either Tech 1 or Tech 2 in high school. That's about all the time that they have. But they're bringing back about $40,000 a year from the state because they're certified. Those students are certified in some OSHA programs, basic construction principles, things like that. So the question was, are we going to see colleges do this? I believe so. I think that they will refocus on this. 75% of our student population need that path for a skill, and no one up here is not encouraging any of them to not go past a high school education. We certainly want them to bring more to the table for every employer. The more you bring to the table, the better job you're going to get, the higher paid you're going to get, the more advancement you're going to get. So walking in and if we have this focus in high school where they're getting some of the basics, they are very marketable, and employers are willing to work with them, do on-the-job training. But I think, what we're saying here is there's a good portion that need to have this focus on a technical education, and maybe the colleges will follow suit.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? Miraculous. Oh, Ashley. Sure, if you can just be loud. Okay, let me just check. Did everyone hear that question? Okay, let me just summarize it really quickly. The question was, is there any effort to insist on policy change around student loans? Essentially, what I hear you asking is, can you prevent people from making a $60,000 mistake by testing them and counseling them so that when people apply for a big student loan, they know that they're qualified to be in the path that they're trying to take? Is that what you're asking? Yes. Okay.
We do not do any student loans. Our tuition is set by the legislature. It's very low, but we also have excellent support from local companies and local Kiwanis of giving scholarship money. And the students that qualify for Pell, we offer the Pell grant, which is a grant. They don't have to pay it back. Simply because if you start out your career owing $70,000, that's too much of a burden. And we looked at it and said, no, we're not doing any student loans. We'll get you a job. We'll work with you, but you're not going to leave our school in debt.
I think you bring up a very important point, which even goes beyond loans, which I think aptitude testing is something that's really important, and I think should be done earlier on in high school, to really define the aptitude should be, are you good, whether it's mechanical as well as academic, and right now most of the testing is, AP, academic, that kind of test. And one of our manufacturers that I was talking to, I said, how did you get into what you're doing? He owns a very successful company. And he said, well, I didn't really know. I was going into the Air Force, and they did an aptitude test. And when I did this aptitude test, I suddenly discovered I was really good with electric wiring and electricity. So I decided I was going to specialize in those kind of things while I was in the Air Force, and when I came out, I started my own business. So what that illustrates is, I think, before the loan or before whatever path we choose, I think aptitude testing is something that we should really start to look at, not just academic, but aptitude.
You know, just in closing, I wanted to mention something interesting from my own experience because I taught for 12 years in a medical school, and we had a lot of foreign students. And I think sometimes in this country we forget that not everybody's educational system is the same as ours. And one of the most interesting things I discovered is that all of my students, I taught in the Masters in Public Health, I still do, taught in the Masters in Public Health program. And a lot of physicians from other countries take that degree because it gives them a reason to be in this country while they're seeking a residency. Basically, I'm not sure they're really excited about public health, but they're very smart and they do well, and that gives them a platform to be here. But all of my doctors from India chose to become scientists in the 8th grade. And that was through testing. It was very interesting to me because their knowledge was extraordinary. And all of the physicians would talk about that. Oh my God, these are kids and they know everything. You know, it's like it's an amazing thing when you pick a direction early in life and then it's your passion and you follow it. But the weird thing was they didn't know anything else. So, you know, in this country we would say, well, they're not very broadly educated because they don't know much about history or anything other than the science that they're pursuing. Nonetheless, they're inventing, they're creating, they're starting all kinds of, they're really the pioneers in medicine because they really do know the one thing that they care about. And I think that we have to look at that as a country. I think one of the things that I see as an educator is understanding that there's a lot of other ways that kids can learn a lot of other things, and to encourage them to do that early on, you know, to use the internet, to use resources available, but to focus on their passion. To your point, Ashley, I think that is a policy that a lot of organizations are going to get behind, because otherwise we just have all these people that will never get out of debt and they still can't get the job of their dreams. Anyway, that's I'm sorry to editorialize, but I wanted to share that with you because it was such an eye-opening experience for me to discover that students from elsewhere had a whole different learning path and really a result that was quite extraordinary. Okay, well, thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. I appreciate your attention, and we'll see you next month when we're going to be talking about Long Bar Point.